Hello and welcome to ISRC TV for round number 2 of the Aquiver eSports Championship. You're joining us this week at Watkins, Glen at the Classic Boot line-out for 1 hour-long sprint race with the LMP2 cars and GT3s. At the moment, we're on board with Theo Schroeder, who we saw finishing P3 in last race as he's about to start his first flying lap. As we watch these cars take on the track for the next hour. Joining me in the commentary booth today is Andrew Gatton, and on the cameras we've got Martin Pearson.
Hello there. How are we doing, guys?
Very well, thank you. Looking forward to some, hopefully some awesome racing over the next hour, as we've currently got 10 minutes left of the qualifying session for the LMPs. 15 minutes handed out to both classes with a 5-minute break in between. 5 minutes gone in LMP2 qualifying at the moment. Currently, Theo Schroeder set the fastest lap time at 32.2. Marcus Solholm, who we saw winning last race after an awesome battle, is currently sat in second, just a second off of Theo, but we heard him saying in the post-race interview last week that he's looking to have a bit of fun here, so we can expect to see Marcus starting at the back of the grid and battling forward through the rest of it.
Definitely, I think Marcus has definitely got the ability to make up for any positions that he may drop in quali, whether it be purposeful or not. He just he's dominant in that Dallara P217.
Yep, Marcus is a very capable driver. He's currently sat at 5.9 KI rating, so he's, if I'm not mistaken, that's within the top 5% of iRacers on iRacing, so he's very talented, as we saw in his performance last week. As we actually see Larry Corpella setting his first flying lap time. It's the first time seeing him out on track in this season. New entry into the LMP2 category. We've only got 3 LMP2s this week, so it should be interesting to see how that will play out, whether we're going to see the same level of battling as we did last time. There wasn't many cars, but it was a fairly good battle, wasn't it, Andrew?
Oh yeah, definitely. For the very little amount of cars on track LMP2 wise, we definitely saw a fair amount of battling between Hugh Haycox and Marcus Solholm. They definitely knew how to make a race out of everything there. It was very, very well done from them.
And this shouldn't be any exception at all, I don't think. So he's now watching aboard with Lowry coming through the tight turn of, that looks to me like turn number 7, getting ready to start one of his flying laps now. So he comes out of the final corner to start a flying lap. See if you can ride on board with him now for this lap, as we see him accelerating down the front straight, coming down towards turn 1, braking just before the 100-yard mark. Downhill braking, so you've got to be careful not to carry too much speed as he runs wide and actually loses control of the car, just tapping the grass. Lose it. Can he keep it out of the barrier? No, he can't. He's going to want to tow away if he can. So we hear someone else coming through. Ooh, big collision there. That looked like Marcus catching him there on the run by. It'll be interesting to see if the stewards have got anything to say about that. We don't have any live stewarding, but it'll all be done post-race. He just ran a bit wide there and spun it on the grass. It's all too easy to do in these LMP2s.
I would assume that was nobody's fault there. He was kind of in a blind corner where he spun out. But obviously, we'll see what the stewards say, hopefully after the race. And we'll see if there's anything said about that, because I would believe that nobody's really at fault for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it might have been a bit presumptuous to assume that a driver was at fault there. However, it looks like both guys are in the pits now and will be making their way out again for some more qualifying runs, as Theo Schroeder looks like he's blinking a little bit, going along. Slightly dodgy connection to the iRacing servers. He's currently sat on provision pole with a 32.3, just 4 tenths ahead of his teammate and team manager Marcus Solholm.
Talking about Theo, he's a very skilled driver for only being a 2.5k I rating. As we saw, he was putting on a fair show last week, especially in quali. So he knows how to drive that car to its limits, it seems, even being slightly lower than his team manager, Marcus.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying that although Marcus is a 6K driver, he'd be considered an alien by most iRacers. I think if I'm not mistaken, the average iRating's at 1.9K, and yeah, it still takes a fair bit of skill to get up to that. As I'm sure all of you are aware who've driven in iRacing, you're racing in 1500 iRating lobbies. It's difficult to survive a race, and so if you can manage to pull your way out of that, then you're doing very well for yourself. You see Lowry, after his accident, made his way back out, about to start another qualifying lap. He's done a 1 lap so far, but it was a 32.9, which has put him 0.6 off of the current pole sitter. Let's see if we can actually get right on him this time by, or if he's going to have a similar issue. Coming over the start-finish line now on the run down towards turn 1. As I was saying, it's a downhill braking zone, so you've got to be careful. Braking is a bit more cautious this time, taking a tight line. Make sure he doesn't run too wide here. Now into these blind, flat-out corners of turns 2 and 3, the S's. Going up and then over the crest. The car likes to get loose here. There's a little bit of a bump as we see him struggling with the steering there. Through this flat-out kink of turn 4 onto the back straight. This is the classic boot layout, so no chicane here, like a lot of you may be aware of in the current VRS Championship. We'd go off to the chicane on the right, as he'll just tap the brake and downshift through 1, maybe 2 gears through turn 5. Tap of the brake, and then you're going to be looking to get on full throttle. You can run out and use a lot of that curve there as he comes down towards turn 6 to shoot. Braking down, you can carry a lot more speed through this corner than you think due to the camber. He gets on throttle nice and early, accelerating out. Pulling over to the left-hand side of the track now for a difficult late apex corner of turn 7 called Toe. Trying to take as late of an apex as he can, running out wide. You've got to be careful not to clip the grass there. It's all too easy to do as he makes his way down towards turn 8, called the heel. Braking down through the gears into second, running slightly wide off of the apex as he then gets a little bit of oversteer as well on throttle, but nicely handled. Uphill towards turn number 9, the second of our blind late apex corners as he gets on throttle nicely, coming over the bridge down towards turn 10 up our second last corner. Got there eventually. He comes through to the penultimate corner now. It's just a lot faster than you think. You can carry a lot of speed through there due to the camber as he runs very close to the wall and across the start-finish line to finish his flying lap. See if he'll improve on that. No, he does not. That was a 33.07, but brilliant of him to show us a lap of the track.
Yeah, I think the area where he lost a bit of time was coming into the third sector there. Obviously, he missed his apex coming through the heel and the corner after that. So ultimately, he managed to maintain some very, very skillful driving throughout that to keep the car on the track. But if you miss the apex on these smaller kind of intricate corners like what we were seeing there, it's all too easy to be sent into the barrier.
Yeah, as we saw him doing earlier on now, as we're looking on board with the other 2 Aquiver cars, all the LMP2 cars while racing part of the Aquiver team. Theo Schroeder are currently on board with. We're just behind Marcus. I wonder if he's going to have a bit of dirty air here or whether he's playing for the slipstream. Actually, it doesn't look like that will affect him as Marcus pulls off to the pit lane, practicing a bit of pit entry. All of the drivers will be doing 1 pit stop in this race. LMP2s will be running about 40 minutes and about 45 minutes for the GT3 runners in the field.
On board still with Theo Schroeder. He's doing very well. I love those sweeping views of him coming up the hill there and onto that main straight. Very fast car, that Dallara P217. It's honestly got to be one of my favourite cars to look at in iRacing and to also see racing just in general, as there's only one P2 in iRacing. Everybody uses it, and it leads to some very, very close racing.
Yeah, it's a car which a lot of iRacers have been calling for, and iRacing have given us what we've wanted, a closed cockpit LMP2 car to round off the legacy of the HPD, as some of you will remember. And it hasn't disappointed. People have been loving it, driving. We've seen it in a lot of new series. It's taken the place of the DPI in IMSA, and we see it in its series such as ESS and a lot of leagues like this. But like you said, Andrew, it's a brilliant car to drive and to watch out on track, and you get some really incredible racing from it. You can do it for both 20 minutes, or you can go and drive this car for 24 hours, and it's still great the entire time through.
Definitely. I feel to get the full experience out of the car, you have to share it with your friends doing an endurance race. I feel the LMP cars are always so much like they mean more to you when you've driven them with other people and you get to that final lap that you know you're going to cross the line in that endurance race. And that thing has pulled you through thick and thin. GT cars slamming into the side of you, having LMP1 cars flying past you and making you feel belittled. And you still come out on top within yourself knowing that you managed to get to the end in this car. And it'll always have a place in your heart at the end.
Yes, very well said. As we see Lowry finishing his last lap as LMP2 qualifying has finished. We've got a 5-minute break now until we see the GT cars make their way out on track. If you're just joining us, I'll run you through the current standings. We've got Theo Schroeder, who's sat currently on pole position for the LMP2 field, Aquiver Motorsports car. He's running the green livery that you can see on screen now. He did a 1:32.2. And then in second place, Marcus Solholm, the league organizer and Aquiver team manager. He's running the bluey purple liveried car today. And he has done a 32.6, so 4/10 off of Theo in the pole position car. And then a new entry to the series, Lowry Corpella, who's starting in third place. After a good showing from him, we'll be expecting to see him move the way up the field. We know he's quite fast in race pace. See if he can challenge Theo and Marcus in the race as we get ready for the GTs to make their way out on track.
So yeah, it's our first time seeing Lowry Corpella in this series. As you can see there, he hasn't got any points yet. So it'd be interesting to see where he stands, whether he's going to be in between Marcus and Theo, or is he going to be behind Theo, or is he going to be faster than Marcus? So it'd be interesting to see where we can go.
Yeah, as we just saw the standings popping up there from LMP2. Marcus leading the way after strong round race 1, as we saw him take the win coming out of the final corner. Theo sat in 4th after he had some issues in race 1 at Spa, so we'd expect to see him gain a lot of points. The minimum that he will gain will be 15 points from this race, so we'll see him shoot his way up the standings. So we now look over at our GT Pro category. John Derrick wins after our second place car of Yelta Korsman spun at Spa at Puant, meaning that John Derrick took the win there.
Going back down the pack, you've actually got a few drivers that weren't in last week, but it'll be awesome to see them race this week instead. A couple of cars unfortunately not finishing last week. Jonathan Keane manages to clinch the win there from last week's standings. In second, we have Jamie Daniels in the standings, only 5 points off, obviously, finishing second. And in third, we have Silas Nicholson with 16 points. In the fourth position, we have Davy Van Den with 13 points. And then the rest of the drivers have 0 points, whether they finished or they are new drivers.
Yeah, as we now see the GT cars making their way out onto track. Currently today, we've got 5 pro drivers entered into the race and 5 AM drivers. So it'll be interesting to see what we'll make of that as we are on board with the AM driver of Silas Nicola as he makes his way on his out lap, ready to start his first flyer.
Definitely a really cool BMW he's driving at the moment, as we're actually on board with John Derrick, who's driving the fire-spitting McLaren. Very nice car that is. I've got to say, one of my favourite cars of all time, the McLaren MP412C. As he's coming round the last corner, and he's going to loop it in to start his flying lap.
It's got a bit of a cult following, the McLaren and iRacing. Not a lot of drivers can drive it, as it's quite a technical car to drive, but whenever any driver can drive it, is able to get a hold of it, then they rarely drive anything else. John Derrick is one of those drivers who we've seen racing in round 1. He's got a different livery this race to last. We saw him with the half and half black and white livery. He's now got a black, silver and gold livery, which is very striking. Good to see some new designs out on track.
Definitely is a cool car to look at as we see him coming down off that back straight. He is going to go round into sector 2 of the track now. Very nice car control coming round that very cambered corner. He's going to bring it in nice and tight to the line, brings it out, just uses a little bit of curb coming into the toe. Now he's going to try and tuck it nicely in the middle of the track, just using that front wheels to gain a little bit of traction. We see him coming up now towards the heel on the Watkins Glen boot. Just braking just at that marker there. He's coming round the corner, uses just enough of the curb to get him round the track there. He's now sitting parked nice in the middle of the track, using as much of the road as he can, coming up to the second last corner now. This is definitely going to be a good time. Again, using as much of the road as he possibly can. And there we go, going off a tiny bit there, and he will cross the line.
Nicely
so
done.
John Derrick, 143.502 there. So that puts him in 4th position in that McLaren. So it was very well done from him.
Yep, so that's first in our GT3 category, setting the first driver to set a flying lap and going provisionally for pole position. As we see, David Gilmore's gone provisionally second, and the driver that we're on board with now, Sila Nicolaisen, first of our AM drivers and provisionally 3rd overall. So very strong showing from him as he decides to abort this lap, as he'll escape back to the pit lane in an attempt to start another flying lap.
So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we have just under 15 minutes, obviously, for them to go on this. So just over 10, I do believe. They're still driving to the limits around here, obviously trying to get as much as they can out of the cars. As you see that the BMW coming round the second to last corner now, the last corner here. And he use as much of that curbing as he can. And we'll see Jamie Daniels just about, I do believe this is his start of his lap now, as he had that was his out lap. So be interesting to see what he managed to post. He is one of the amateur drivers, number 219. For those of you that don't know, anyone that's numbered 100 to 199 is a pro driver, and anyone who's numbered 200 to 299 is an amateur driver. So that's one way that you can see them all racing and understand which class they're racing in. Jimmy Daniels coming just off that big straight line, obviously where we would see on the new circuit where the chicane is. Some very nice stuff from him. Going around that corner.
Running a bit wide there, probably get an off track for that, meaning that he'll have to abort this lap and get ready to start another one. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't get an off track from that. Watkins Glen, a bit interesting when it comes to off track scenario, so you could really extend the limits of the track out of turn number 1 and turn number 5. You can run right out to the wall and you don't get an off track as long as you've rejoined the track before the end of the curbing. Whereas you get other tracks where you can just drop one wheel onto the grass and you'll have an instant point like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that'll play out over the race. You see Jamie coming around the final quarter to start a flying lap now. So he's currently sat second in the AM category and 5th overall in GT3, sorry. As he comes down towards turn 1. Heavy brakes, and you'll see him extend the track here, and you'll see what I mean, running right the way out across the curb. That's not an off track, but if he does have 2 wheels touching the grass at any one time after that, that will be an off track, so drivers got to be careful about that. As you rarely see a driver getting an instant point going through the S's there unless something's gone terribly wrong. And the chicane normally you would have here would cause them some troubles, but we're not taking that route today as they're coming down towards turn number 5. Another place
taking
here
the loop.
Yeah, exactly. This is another place where you can see them run very wide off the track. I'm not sure if the GTs are going to do it because they want to take a little bit of a later apex in the prototypes, but you can run all the way out to that wall and not get an instant point for it. As we see him, losing it on the grass.
A little bit lost there.
Looping it round on the grass, all too easy to do as he escapes back to the pit lane. As in the back of shot, we saw the Lamborghini making his way through. On board now with our our round one winner from Spa, Jonathan Keane for Cabal Motorsports, as he looks like he's about to start a flying lap, if I'm not mistaken, as he gets ready to come across the line. He's currently sat in 9th overall in GT and 4th in AM, so that's last in AM. Maybe you wanted to improve on that.
You see a few drivers are actually out on their out laps now. Jonas Beckman, he's had to dodge out of the way of a couple of the cars that were coming flying up behind him. He's driving the Lamborghini Huracan GT3.
Looking back now, Jonathan.
Oh, sorry, you carry on.
I was going to say, looking back now, Johnson just gets a bit of a tank slapper on at the apex of the corner as you see him flying out into the outside wall there. Luckily, this is a sim. If this is real world, we're expecting to see him taking a trip to the medical center after that, but able to escape back to the pit, so I imagine we'll see him back out on track again in the final 10 minutes of the session to set another lap time. So we now look on board with Nick Carroll, unfortunately getting a DNF in race 1 after having an unfortunate accident in the early stages of the race.
Yeah, I do believe he was trying to dodge LMP2 cars, and he put a little bit of a tank slapper on just before the bus stop and lost it into the wall. So it was very unfortunate from him, just trying to do a good deed.
Yeah, very well remembered there. I couldn't remember quite myself what happened as we saw him just there losing it on the grass for a second. So now look forward to Jamie Daniels in the Omega Racing liveried car. Very colourful looking machine, lots of blue triangles on it and interesting pink stripes. I quite like this design. I'm a bit colourblind, so forgive me if I do say the wrong colour on a car, but even as being colourblind, I think it's a very good looking livery.
Definitely, yeah. The yellowy gold kind of colours that he's got to the car with the blue and the black with just a kind of gunmetally grey as well as the base colour. It definitely stands out for the Omega Racing car, the M4 GT3.
So then look back to the 4th place car overall and in the GT3 Pro category, Mateusz Debuszczek, about to start his flying lap. He's currently sat just half a second off of the... 1.3 seconds off of our pole sitter, John Derrick, at the moment. So he's going to want to try and improve on this. It's a big gap there at the top end of the GT3 field. Half a second from John Derrick to the next car of Billy Fletcher's. So, like to see that gap close up so we can have a bit more close racing, whereas if we look a bit further down the field in our AM category, that's all very close and bunched up, no more than 2/10 separating any one of those cars. But hopefully Watkins Glen is quite a high speed track where drivers can sit in the slipstream quite a lot, so we should see some good racing coming from that.
Just to let everybody know as well who's watching, if you would like to take part in this championship anytime at all, feel free to join the Aquiver eSports Championship at the Discord. I'm sure we can somehow get the Discord up at some point for you guys. But yeah, if you would want to take part or your team would like to take part, definitely join in and speak to Marcus and he'll sort you out.
Yep, this is just round 2 of an 8-round championship, so you've not missed out on anything yet. You can definitely get yourselves in on the fun. And if you're looking for something a little bit more endurance orientated, at ISRC we run an endurance championship. There's a link to the Discord in the description if you guys would like to check that out. We've got 24 Hours of Le Mans coming up at the start of April. So if that's something you'd be interested in, running in LMP1, LMP2 or GTE Pro and Am, make sure you go join that Discord below and you can check out what we're doing. And might be something you want to get involved in. As now look on Jonas Beckman, currently sat 8th overall in GT and 5th in AM. He's behind 3 of the AM drivers, sorry, 5th in Pro. He sat 8th overall, behind 3 of the AM drivers, so he's going to want to try and improve on where he is at the moment. Just coming out of an out lap, so he's going to be starting a flying lap now. See if we can see him move up the field at the end of this lap.
It's quite strange that at the 90s you can go right off there and not get an off track. As in some games and some sims that I've seen, if you go off there, it's an instant off track. So iRacing, I think, is definitely got a soft spot for the 90s there. The great thing about the 90-degree turn at the end there is I guess that little bit of runoff. There's no gravel or anything really. It's just asphalt. So you're not going to really lose too much time if you end up going right over the lip. Jonas Beckman right now, he is one of our pro drivers, driving in the Lamborghini, I do believe. Yeah, nice line through there, starting wide, coming in, just tucking the car into the corner, which is very nice from him. He's now coming up to the heel. He's going to take it, come out a little bit wide, bring it in to the corner, and then use the curb. He's now coming in to the second part of the heel. Using a little bit too much curb there, a bit too much bump. He could have run that one a little bit wide, and there we go. As we see, he's hit the grass and sent himself into the wall, and he's taken to the gravel challenge.
Yeah, all too easy to do in these mid-engine cars. Just tap the grass when you're getting on the brakes, and the car just loops around on you. As you just see a replay of him escaping back to the pit lane. He's got to be careful not to do that there in the race. When you're battling, it's a great overtaking opportunity going into that second to last corner. But then again, you've got such small margins for error around here with not much curb and grass being right on the edge. A lot of drivers love the thrill of it, but at the same time, it could really screw you over when you're trying to race other cars.
Definitely. It's John Derrick, one of the Aquiver Motorsports drivers in that McLaren, as we said earlier, is coming around to the last corner. The car just feels very, he must have a very good setup on it. It just looks so stable. He's doing such little work with that car to bring it round the last corners there. Very well done from him.
See him making his way up through the S's now. He's pretty much solidified his pole position at the moment with a half a second gap to the next car behind of Billy Fletcher. If he can improve on that, he'll be doing very well, but he's looking at a good result here from this. We didn't see our second place finisher from last race turn up today. Just give me a second.
Still running on board now with John Derrick in the McLaren, as he's now coming up to that apex that we see. He's pulled nicely there. Again, that car seems to have a really, really nice amount of downforce around the loop. He's not really doing any sort of work at all. He's coming into the heel. He's coming up towards what's considered as West Tunnel, and he'll be coming into turn 10, which is also named the Sir Jackie Stewart turn, as named just because of, Sir Jackie Stewart. Coming up to the last corner, and he's going to take the line there. I'm not too sure if he's improved on his time, but I'm sure we can find out.
No, he did not improve on his lap time. Last lap, he was half a second off of his best qualifying time. And wonder whether he's just lapping to keep himself entertained at the moment. As you look a bit further back down at Silse Nicholson, who's our pole sitter in the AM category. But going back to what you're saying about Jackie Stewart, if I'm not mistaken, this was the race where he announced his retirement.
Yes, I actually do believe there was it was Watkins Glen, I do believe, that he announced his retirement. I know somebody personally who is related to Sir Jackie Stewart, so it's always nice to know that. But I have not met Sir Jackie Stewart as much as I would like to. It's always nice to know that your friends have and you haven't.
Yeah, he's one of those absolute legends that we see in racing. Obviously, he's won 3 Formula One World Championships in his time, and it's nice to see that this track in America remembering him from that.
Yes, definitely. I think as well, so Jackie Stewart being one of the best drivers of his time, and that's one thing that actually irritates me as well, is when we find out the amount of people that compare the likes of Lewis Hamilton to the likes of Sir Sterling Moss, the late Sir Sterling Moss, I should say, Sir Jackie Stewart, and you know, the likes of Fangio. I don't think it's a fair judgment. They're driving completely different cars, you know. All of them are just completely different to what they were in the 1960s, I would believe. So, looking back now, I do believe that is pretty much the end of our qualifying, as all the cars are now finishing their laps and returning to the pit lane.
Yep, the last car out on track's David Gilmour as he escapes back to the pit lane. We have to wait 40 seconds before we can get our results up, I'm afraid. It's the way that iRacing works. So you have to give us a minute. The drivers, once this is up, will do one formation lap before they get ready to start a rolling start for the start of the 1 hour race. We're expecting to see the LMP2 cars catch the back end of the GTs on about lap number 11, will be what I'm guessing. And then from that, I'll be roughly every 10 laps after that. We should be seeing the LMPs making their way through. I'm expecting to see them pass the GT3s 3 times this race, would be my guess. Possibly John Derrick or any of the other contestants at the front of the field might not get lapped those 3 times, but we'll see what happens in due course as we get ready for the standings to come up. Yep, so here we are. Theo Schroeder takes pole position in the LMP2 category for Aquiver Motorsports with a 1:32.2, with Marcus Solholm in second place at the moment, 4.7 tenths off of pole position. And then our newcomer, Larry Capella, the third and final driver in LMP2 and third Aquiver Motorsports driver there. Just half a second off, so it should be a close battle at the top of the LMP2 category. So we then look through to 4th place overall. The first of our GT3 cars, John Derrick for Aquiver Motorsports, takes the pole position with Billy Fletcher just behind in second. David Gilmour's in 6th for BTTW Racing, with Mateusz Dabuschek in 4th place in GT3. Nick Carroll for Aquiver Motorsports, the first of our AM drivers, is sat in 5th in the AM category at the moment, with Silas Ekolshen in 6th and 2nd in the AM category. Jamie Daniels is sat in 7th in GT, with Jonas Beckman in 8th just behind. And then on our back row of the grid, we've got Jonathan Keane and Hendrik Lichtenhagen take 9th and 10th respectively, as the drivers are on the grid waiting to do the formation lap to start their 1 hour race.
It'll be interesting to see where the amateur drivers, sorry Isaac, just going to say, it'd be interesting to see where the drivers actually end up finishing, the amateur drivers, in comparison to the pro drivers. As we know, as we saw last week, that the amateur drivers, some of them are a little bit faster than some of the pro drivers on certain tracks. So it'll be, again, quite interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens between the AM and pro categories as the cars are ready to move off on the start of the formation lap. Just taking a look at our conditions for today: 26 degrees ambient temperature. Relating to on track, we're looking at 28 degree track temperature, as the tarmac will absorb more of the heat. 56% ambient humidity, as some of you might have heard recently. Something that's been joking around on the forums is that humidity can affect your graphic settings. as we hear people joking about recently, which I find quite entertaining, but that is not true. The humidity setting doesn't change, your frame rate or your graphics setting, so don't worry about that.
And here was me thinking I had a hope in running the
game. Yeah, no worries. As we then see a 15-degree tailwind blowing, to me that is northwest, which will be giving the drivers a tailwind going up this straight here, which we're looking at the moment. So it'll be prime overtaking opportunity for the cars further behind, and they'll give them some downforce as well through the boot section. So it should lead to some fairly interesting racing.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for the likes of Taylor Schroeder, who we see in pole position today in the LMP2 class, to actually get off the line as fast as he possibly can. Obviously, it should be pretty much a rolling start anyway. If he can get away as soon as he can, get away from Marcus, he might be able to get a bit of a lead on him to start off with. And as we say, Marcus is the most experienced driver on the grid today. So again, it'll be a test for Teo to see if he can, keep him behind. So definitely one of those things that we will love to see as commentators, and I'm sure you guys as viewers will also love to see it too.
Yep, as we then look at our GT3 pollster to John Derek, he's choosing not to leave too big of a gap to the LMP2 field, as the cars behind him are deciding not to go 2x2 at the moment, trying to get some heat in the tyres and brakes before they make the start of the race. As we see Billy Fletcher, as I say that, for Luxim Simsport moving his way up alongside John Derek. The drivers will all be going on green, so that's both the GT3 and the LMP2 categories will go on green to signal the start of their race. It'll be close at the top of GT3. They're known for their close racing in both real life and in sim. It's a fan favourite between drivers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that category as we then look forward for the drivers coming through the third from last corner, getting ready to start their 1 hour long sprint race.
Do believe that Chevy truck, it's got a fair amount of power in it to be hauling ass down the straight there, so fair enough on him. Just imagine that safety car driver putting his foot to the floor in that thing with the scary the scary sight of three LMPs bunching up behind him.
As we see the LMPs start the races, the race goes green now. We see Taylor Schroeder taking a good start there, getting ahead of Marcus Solholm in the Aquiver car behind, making their way down to turn 1. Is Marcus going to try anything up the inside? No, he's not, as we see the cars running out of turn 1. Theo leads through turn 1, as we see a slide on further back down the field. That looks like Marcus getting up under the rear wing. Is he going to try and move through the S's? He'd be bold if he tries anything through here. No, he's not going to do anything at the moment, and it looks like Lowry in the background's closing up in the slipstream. Marcus is going to be on the outside going through into turn 5. Lowry's going to try and make it 3 wide going down the start finish straight.
3 wide. Holy, this is someone's going to have to back out here, and unfortunately my screen is not letting me see. There we go, and we see Theo Schroeder just still holding on, but Copella and Marcus Solholm having a little bit of a battle for second place there as they come round. It's crazy driving we're seeing in the LMP2 field at this moment in time, as we see Nick Carroll's actually made up a few places, as Martin Dibrook and actually 3 drivers has already taken to the pits, as we only have 10 drivers on the track at this moment in time.
With yeses there, that looked like the BMW of Mateusz Tebuszek collecting the back end of David Gilmour in the Lamborghini there. Easy to do through the yeses, and we see him as getting back to the pit lanes. That's unfortunate to see there. It looked like 4 or 5 cars actually getting caught up in that. But once you see a car going sideways through there, it's impossible to avoid anyone else on track. The cars that made it through, lucky to do so, but it's unfortunate to see 3 cars having to tow to the pit lane before finishing the first lap in the race. That then knocks it down just to 10 cars out on track at the moment. Hopefully we'll see those other 3 make their way back out on track in due time. But that does mean that the top 3 cars of John Derek, Billy Fletcher and our leading AM driver Nick Carroll to gap over 5 seconds to the GT3s further back. Looking back now to the lead of our race, Marcus Solholm's managed to make his way past Theo Schroeder, coming down towards turn number 5. This is a brilliant overtaking opportunity for these prototypes. Theo's on the outside for turn number 5 this time. As they're coming down towards the braking zone, just a tap of the brake, and he's trying it around the outside. He's going to make it stick. I'll be surprised if he does. No, he doesn't. Going to try and slip under the back end of Marcus. Can he do anything down into turn 6? No, he can't, so that levels out just there. Marcus is now leading halfway through 1.5 laps. Theo Schroeder's behind in P2, and Larry Capella is back in 3rd position where he started the race. Brilliant drive from Marcus so far to make his way up into the start of the race. And Larry seems quite happily sat behind at the moment, just waiting for those two to make a mistake and try and pick it off.
Definitely. I think Marcus obviously knew that he was in a good position from the start to attack whenever he wanted. It's just going to be a case of him to be able to either decide wherever he wants a race, or is he going to run away with the lead now, as he's got nothing stopping him. As we come into the final 2 corners, going past the Jackie Stewart stand to our right there, on board with Larry Capella in the last corner, running a little bit wide, but he managed to keep the car and not collect it into the wall. But Marcus Soholm going a 1:34.32. That's a very good time. That's a very competitive time, actually, looking at the times that came out of the Watkins Glen IMSA race last year. That's still that's a pretty competitive time that Marcus is pulling out there.
Marcus opening up the gap now to 4/10 of a second, as we see Theo try to get in the slipstream, close up as much as he can. The first BMW is just up the track of Jamie Daniels in the Omega racing car. We saw him involved at the instant at the start of the race, so it looks like the P2s will be catching a lot sooner than anticipated. Just a little update there on the cars that were involved in that accident. David Gilmore was the Lamborghini that we saw spun around at the start. He's made his way back out of the pits, and he's going again. We can just about... No, he's just further back on track. There he is there, making his way through turn 6. It'll be interesting to see where he can finish up in this race. He's only halfway through his first lap at the moment, but it's not over till the fat lady sings, and hopefully he'll be able to get a good result out of this.
Definitely, with GT cars, especially going up the S's, it's a little bit of a strange one, isn't it, Isaac? You don't know where to position the car on the track, and know that you've got enough space to give enough racing room. And obviously we saw them almost going 3 wide up the S's, and obviously there's just not enough space on the track there to warrant a 3 wide attack. So yes, as we actually see Jamie Daniels, he's managing to get back out, obviously, in that Omega Racing M4. We saw he'd done a decent time in quali. He's managed to he's back in the same place that he started, which is still pretty good from him. He'll be happy to maybe see if he can get past Beckman, who's in front of him. But again, as Isaac said, it's not over till the fat lady sings.
Yeah, however, unfortunately, you guys won't be able to see us on stream. We've just seen Mateusz Dabuszczyk has decided to leave the session, so unfortunately it doesn't look like we'll be seeing him back out on track again, as we're now looking. This is the battle for the lead of the race. Theo Schroeder just behind in the green Aquiver Motorsports car, with Marcus Solheim in the blue Aquiver Motorsports car just ahead. This is the battle for the lead. Less than 0.3 of a second separating these two at the moment. Theo will do well to make a move in this final sector, but we should be seeing him making an attack on the back straight down between turns number 4 and 5. See if he can just keep close enough to be in the slipstream range of Marcus through these final 2 corners. He's going to have a lot of front end push there, as we can just see the heel tyre scrubbing a little bit as he tries to get the car turned in. Now he's got this beautiful long straight down towards turn 1 to get in the slipstream, and then an even longer straight after this as he gets beautiful power down there, ready to get up in the slipstream of Marcus and try and make a move down towards turn 5. I can expect this to be a race-long battle here, as it looks like these two are fairly on pace, and Watkins Glen gives such a good race here as we see him going 2 wide. Theo trying on the outside again. We saw him trying this on lap number 2. Is he going to be able to make it stick this time, as we see him managing to get his way past Marcus now, so he is now leading. halfway through lap number 4 now as he comes down towards turn 5. Is Marcus going to try anything up the inside here? No, he's not. Nicely done by Theo there. Textbook overtake.
Definitely, as we see Marcus in the last race, he likes to have this cat and mouse game with what we would consider his victims as they are driving around the track, and he likes to just sit behind them enough to be able to chase them down into corners. We see there as he's coming in to the heel there, he was thinking about a move, but obviously Theo's connection isn't the best at the moment, so he thought the better of it.
Yeah, Marcus is going to have to do well to try and get past Theo here. Every time that he gets by, it looks like Theo's able to get back past him. As
and Marcus goes wide. Very wide through the Jackie Stewart corner there. I'm not sure whether to call it a corner, as it's just the stand that's really named after him there, but we'll go with it. Oh, nice overtake there from Marcus to get past that GT3. To come up, that's where that incident was earlier. Actually, going into the race incident chat in the Discord, we've actually had a few of the there's been a little bit of a spat between a few of the drivers. Obviously, one of the drivers was blamed for that incident at the start of the race, so that will obviously be reviewed at the end of the race by the stewards, and whether there's going to be appropriate action taken or not will be to the decision and discretion of the stewards. You see Billy Fletcher running in 5th position at this moment. He's 2nd place in his class, in the pro class. Nick Carroll running 1st in the amateur class, and Silas Nicholson running 2nd in the amateur class. It seems John Derrick and Billy Fletcher, they both are pro drivers, but there is no other pro drivers that will be really contesting them, as John Beckman is still a good lap behind them at the moment, so 1st and 2nd is just up to these drivers.
Be interesting to see whether Beckman will be able to catch up with these two. David Gilmore, we saw involved in the incident at the start of the race. He's 2 laps down and he's out of the running now. But Jonas Beckman, he's still on the lead lap. If he's got any damage, he'll be trying to make the best of it and try to catch up to these lead 2, at least get past the 3 AM cars that are in front of him. But like we suspected from qualifying, looks like John Derrick is just starting to ease a little bit of a gap here away from Billy Fletcher in his McLaren, as you see on screen now in his new livery. Yeah, I just got the little update on screen there, as we can see. Derrick just faster marginally over the last couple laps, being able to open up that gap. Actually, last lap, Fletcher able to close up the gap by just 1/10 last lap. Fletcher is able to close up by. Let's see what happens this time by. Fletcher 1/10 slower, so it looks like it's margin of a 1/10 or so between these two drivers lap by lap, and we'll see how that's going to play out over the race. Obviously, one mistake from either one of these two drivers will may determine the outcome of this.
Yeah, I do believe that as well. Looking at John Derrick in that McLaren, obviously he won at Spa last week, so he'll be looking to get a 2nd win under his belt, as Marcus Solholm just posts the fastest lap of the race. It was a 1:32.9. So again, times as the fuel's burning off and the tyres are warming up, we're seeing some very good racing here. Mark is actually going for a full-on outside attack here on Theo Schroeder.
Pulling out just as he gets down towards turn 5 with the Lamborghini of Jonathan Keane for Cabot Motorsports just up ahead as they make their way past. Jonathan involved in that lap 1 incident. Didn't get collected in any of the carnage, but was able to make his way through. So he lost a bit of time there to the cars up ahead of him. as we see Marcus has been closing up these last couple of laps on Theo Schroeder. But it looks like they're paying each other quite a bit of respect, and we should be seeing a good race as Lowry's just able to keep up with these two. The gap's 2.5 seconds at the moment, but if he can keep within that 10-second gap, one mistake from these two up at the lead will mean that Lowry will be able to get back up and fight when it matters as they make their way past Sela Nicolishan, in the BMW, getting right underneath the rear wing of Schroeder there, Marcus, as they make their way out of the final corner onto the start-finish straight to start lap number 8.
Good racing there from both the Aquiver Motorsports drivers. All 3 LMP2s run today are from the Aquiver Motorsports roster, so we'll be seeing these guys having a bit of fun, and you can imagine it's all friendly sportsmanship here as they're coming up the S's. As Marcus pulls out wide again, he's coming on the inside this time to assert his dominance on the run down into the loop.
Marcus able to make his way by up the inside of Theo. We've been able to see Theo's been able to keep his way on the inside. We see Marcus getting very loose there in the exit of turn number 5. Theo's been able to keep up with Marcus through this second and last sector. So if he's able to do that again like he has in the past, he'll be looking to try and make a pass again down the back straight, as we've seen him do in the past. And yeah, as we see him just getting under the rear wing of Marcus, he'll be wanting to try and keep this kind of distance over the next sector, next 4 corners, to try and give him the best position to attack going down in towards turn 5.
Definitely, as we do know that Theo Schroeder for his iRating is really competitive, especially in that LMP2. He definitely put up a good fight last week, and we see David Gilmore losing it again. He's just not had a very good race today, as he's cooked his tires a little bit there, but he'll be okay. He'll make it back out on track, losing a bit of time there too. But again, going back to the comment on Theo Schroeder, he gave a good fight last week for as long as it really lasted, before Hugh Haycox and Marcus Soholm started battling out, going up Eau Rouge, and just kind of that battle spiraled into in the laps just getting faster and faster for both cars. So Theo just not been able to get into their slipstreams at all, and unfortunately had to concede.
As we see there, like I was saying last lap, Theo just able to get in the slipstream and pull past Marcus. It seems like every time Marcus can get by Theo, Soholm's not able to pull away from Schroeder, so then next time comes by and Schroeder's able to get past. A bit of a ding-dong battle lap after lap, so it looks like this is eyeing up to be a close race over the next hour. As we can see just further up the track, the leaders in our GT3, John Derek and Billy Fletcher, and to me it looks like Billy has actually been able to close up on Derek in the McLaren.
Yes, it would seem so, as John Derek and Billy Fletcher, obviously very close drivers. And we actually see in the background there, that is Laurie Copella going off the track. See him he runs a little bit wide around that apex and sends it into the wall. It didn't look like a very high speed shunt, so hopefully he got away with that without any damage. But yes, going back to the comment about Billy Fletcher and John Derrick's, actually Billy Fletcher manages to get past John Derrick as we were talking there. They are relatively very competitive drivers between each other. You could see that earlier in qualifying, so they're jostling to try and get into who can get the lap done first.
Yep, as it looks like Fletcher's been able to get past Derek whilst we were looking at that replay. So now, for the first time, Billy Fletcher leads the GT3 category and John Derrick's just behind. The slipstream effect isn't as great in these GT3 cars, so it's going to be more difficult to pass on this track compared to the LMP2 category, but that's not going to stop these guys from trying. And now that Fletcher's got by, Derrick's going to be pushing as hard as he can to try and get up and reclaim his first place from the Lamborghini.
Yes, definitely. I don't think John Derrick will be settling for second place. He's definitely going to be pushing to get that first. on his name there. Just going back through just about that incident that happened earlier, we've got 2 cars that have unfortunately retired from the race, and that is Lichtenhagen and Debuschek have both had to retire. The BMW M4 driver of Debuschek and Lichtenhagen in the Lamborghini. So we've only got 11 drivers running in today's race, but as we see, Billy Fletcher still managing to stay in front of John Derrick here around the final corner. John Derrick not giving up very easily though. He's waiting for Billy to make a mistake as we come down into the 90. Some very good driving there from him to maintain just enough space between the drivers that he wasn't going to send it into the bathroom there into the 90, which is kind of easy to do there. If you miss your braking zone. Right, behind now, we've actually got the pink car of Laurie Copella chasing down to get past, and they're going to stay to the left-hand side of the track and let the Dallara get past.
As you see our leader there of Marcus Solheim just getting on the grass a little bit there on the exit of turn number 7. That means that Schroeder's able to close up a little bit. He's going to be trying to make a move now going down onto the turn 5, as we've seen before, down the back straight. But it looks like Marcus just ran slightly too deep there. It's easy to do at that corner. Blind apex turning in. Get on throttle slightly too early, you can find yourself on the grass. Fortunately, able to keep it out of the wall, but now means that Schroeder's just within that striking range and is going to put a good attack on going onto the start-finish straight. Down
so yeah, sorry, carry on.
Okay, that's it.
I was just going to make a comment there on the Dallara. As we know, it's got I do believe it's a Nissan V8 engine in the Dallara, and it's Gibson, yes, Gibson, and it is I do believe it's about 480 brake horsepower in between that margin. So a very fast car designed by Dallara there. Dallara being an Italian coach building manufacturer.
Yeah, as you see Theo making his way past Marcus Solheim there on the back straight down towards turn 5. We've seen this happen again time by time. I imagine we're going to see Theo start to pull away a little bit through this final sector as he seems a bit faster from what we've seen in the past, although it looks like Marcus is actually close enough here to maybe pose an attack going down into turn. Tries it up the inside there. Is he going to be able to make it stick? No, he's not. Theo with better traction on the outside. Marcus is going to have to lay off now until we get through to the start-finish straight, unless he's extra ballsy. No, he's not getting a bit of a slide on there in the back of shot. Nicely done to keep the car under control there. So that is now Theo Schroeder is going to lead the race coming across the end of lap 13. Nicely driven from these guys, a lot of respect from one another, and it's great to see this battle going out over the first 12 laps of the race.
Definitely. As we see Theo Schroeder still running there. He's actually went fastest there on a 1:32.5. Again, as we see the racing fuel burning off, the cars will just get lighter and lighter every lap. We also see that racing groove very implanted on the S's there, that big thick black line of all the tyre and leftover rubber that has been ripped off those Michelins.
Yeah, there's a
very close there between Marcus and Theo coming in, obviously getting a little bit caught up behind one of the Lamborghinis, sorry. No Ferraris in the race today. We had one Ferrari last week, but unfortunately he is not here today.
Going back to
a
replay of David Gilmore. So I'm having troubles earlier on in the race, just getting on the grass. Is he able to keep out the wall? Very well done by him just to come away with a slight tap on the rear end as he escapes back to the pit lane. It's unfortunate to see, very well held from him not to have a massive head-on collision there, able to just tap the barrier, but it's unfortunate to see him making his way back to the pit lane. I wonder if that means the end of his race or whether we'll be able to see him back out on track as we now go back to our leading pair of Marcus Solholm and Theo Schroeder leading their way down towards turn 1 after 14 laps of racing.
Theo Schroeder and Marcus Solholm having a little bit of a battle again last lap. Marcus giving him plenty of room, but he is also doing enough to stay in that slipstream. He's doing very well to make sure that he is asserting his dominance on Theo, just pushing the pressure onto him. See if Theo will make a mistake, as Marcus now goes past on the outside, going up the back straight. Marcus Solholm now coming. He's now got himself about 0.3 ahead of Theo Schroeder as we come in to the toe. Very nicely done from both drivers. Yeah, he parked the car pretty much on that apex there. There was nothing that Theo could do. Theo was a little bit later on the brakes, hoping that he could maybe get past, but Marcus had him covered there as we come round the heel. Again, Theo just looking to see if he can get that gap past Solholm as we now come up towards the Sir Jackie Stewart end of the track. And the final 2 corners. Using that concrete pad to the best of their abilities there. Silas Nicholson having a little bit of a battle there with Jonathan Keane of Cabort. Very nice driving, very good stuff from them. Jonathan Keane running second in the AM category and Nicholson running third.
So now going to ride on board over the next lap with these two. Sheila Nicholson having an unfortunate start to the race, being caught up in the incident at the start, as we see him now catching up to the back of Jonathan Keane. This is for 3rd place in AMP, this battle that we're seeing on track at the moment, as they make their way out of turn 5. The BMW has got a massive amount of grunt, a big car, able to get up to incredible speeds in the top straight. Have the Lamborghini, which is lighter and has got that mid-engine's a bit better through the corners and the tight twisty sections. So it'll be interesting to see how this is going to play out, but it looks like Nicholson is able to tame it slightly better through that last section of corners there, closing up on Keane. Ooh, nearly gets on the grass there. Getting ready now, coming through the penultimate corner. Running wider onto the curb as they make their way down to start lap number 14 in the GT3 category. As we see him peeling off into the pit lane, this is the first car that we're going to see make a scheduled pit stop. We know that these GT3s will be running for 45 minutes on fuel, but Nicholson coming in after 25. Is he going to try and do the undercut here on the other GT3s around him? Be interesting to see what's going to happen. It would seem that way.
Talking about driving there, just been keeping an eye on the Dalaras as they were battling out. Theo Schroeder and Marcus Solholm still back and forth on each straight here. They're just giving each other respectful enough racing room, but they're fighting each other for positions. As you can see, Theo was actually pushing Marcus a little bit to the side there to tell him, "No, this is my place. I'm coming into the loop. It's mine." Coming down now towards Toe. As we end this corner here, we'll see Toe in the distance. Whether Theo is going to hold it, yeah, he manages to keep the car nice and planted on the track there, telling Solholm again, "This is mine," which is very well done. Coming down to the heel. Again, Marcus not being able to catch Theo on these corners. Theo definitely has a very good grip of this track. Chasing down towards the line now. Going into the second last penultimate corner. And then we're into the last corner now. Theo Schroeder still leading at this point, coming onto lap 17. Lap 18.
Just going back to what I was saying about the GT3's pitting out, let's just correct myself there. He's not the first car in the pits. Always we see Marcus unable to make his way past his Aquiver Motorsports teammate of, to me, that looked like Nick Carroll, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that was, I do believe that was Nick Carroll there that was parked on the S's.
Yep, so sorry, I'd like to correct myself. I want to go back. He was, Nicole wasn't the first car to pit. We had two cars coming in on lap 1. That was Jonas Beckman and Jamie Daniels, respectively. Unfortunately, that was for the lap 1 incident, so they were serving repairs. They will have to then come back out later in the race and take another pit stop for fuel to run to the end. But Nicole is the first car to come in after stopping for just 18 seconds, indicating that he's just taken fuel and he's now expecting to run to the end of the race and try and get the undercut on the cars up ahead of him.
Definitely. As we actually talk about cars in the pit lane, we have not seen David Gilmore come out of the pits. He's been in the pits for over 8 minutes now, so it is safe to assume that his race is now over and he's just watching from the pit lane.
Yeah, unfortunate to see him out of the race. So it would have been nice to see a couple more cars in the battle for the Pro, but it's all right when we've got these two battling here, Billy Fletcher and John Derrick. From the start of the race, they haven't had any more than a second and a half separating them at the moment. It's just 6/10 as they come through to start lap number 17, sorry, it's had to be corrected, as they make their way onto the back stretch. John Derrick led for the first 8 laps of the race before Billy Fletcher made his pass, which unfortunately didn't catch on camera, but now it looks like it's just been a game of cat and mouse between John Derrick and Billy Fletcher as he's trying to close up that gap and make the pass. Or will we be seeing, we might see a couple of change of position in the pit stops as well, with the Lamborghini and the McLaren having very different fuel flow rates.
Definitely, obviously, the BMW having a V8 engine and the Lamborghini has a V10. So obviously, two different engine types will have their different characteristics. The V10 obviously having quite a nice sound to it as well, as we've heard both that one and the Audi V10 Plus having that engine there as well. As we know, Lamborghini is owned by Audi, so the engine would be safe to say that they are near enough similar.
I often joke with my friends when we're watching racing that a Lamborghini is just a off-market Audi, or vice versa. They're both cars running the same engines and a lot of the same components are similar between the two different cars, but it's nice to see Audi deciding to enter two cars into the GT category. And yeah, I'm not complaining that we've got a bigger variety of cars out on the grid as we see the leaders making their way through for the third time.
Yeah, definitely. Just talking about the actual Audi car as well, I know we're going a bit off topic. I don't know if you've seen the Evolution car that they're looking at for entering in the Endurance Championships as well. Definitely looks like it's going to be a good car to contest some places. Billy Fletcher there, we're watching him come in round the loop. Billy Fletcher obviously, and we see Jonathan Keane riding the barrier there just a little bit, and he has returned to the pit lane. It is safe to assume after that little bit of an incident, so that's a shame for him. He's now out of the race, so we've only got 9 cars in the running now. Jonathan Keane doing really well this week. A few nice overtakes around Spa. The driver's just getting a little bit unlucky here today at the Glen in New York.
Yep, I don't know whether we've caught it on stream, but it looks like Jonathan Keane unfortunately has retired from the race.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, that after having that grinding incident going over the barrier, it seemed unfortunately it would have been too much to repair on time, so he's decided to return to the pits and stay there for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, sorry about that. So that now means that Nicholson is up into third in second place in the AM category, and with only Nick Carroll up ahead of him still to make a pit stop. The time to spend in the pits will be roughly 50 seconds, and the gap at the moment is 51 seconds. So actually, once the pit stops are done and dusted, it looks like it's going to be a very close battle at the top end of GT3 AM. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen at the end at 45 minutes once all the cars have made their pit stops.
Yeah, and talking about pit stops, it was Marcus Soholm and Laurie Copella both coming in at the same time to get their pit stops done out of the way on lap 20. So Theo Schroeder is out on the track at the moment still, but he will need to make enough of a lead on Marcus Soholm and Corpella to be able to get in the pits within this next few laps and be able to maintain that lead.
Yep, so like you were just saying that Theo deciding to run a lap longer as we see him peeling off into the pit lane now. Interestingly enough, the LMP2s spending a lot more time in the pit lane than these GTEs. Obviously, the fuel rates burn at totally different rates. The LMP2s will be filling up 75 litres in the pit stops. Also, they've got a 75-litre fuel tank, whereas the GTEs will be running around 120 litres. Standard have been limited down to 75% on the fuel tanks, so less space to fill up, but it's almost a minute difference between the stop time for the P2s and the GT3s. I wonder whether that was just a bad pit stop and perhaps some repairs for Marcus, but we'll wait and see as Theo's just been stationary in the pits now for 20 seconds, or we should be seeing him move away anytime now.
Definitely. Actually, we're on board now with John Derrick, who is just in the slipstream there of Billy Fletcher in the Lamborghini in front of him. He comes down towards the loop. He is just a little bit too far to be able to make any sort of moves there whatsoever. But it is good to see that John Derrick hasn't given up after having Billy overtaking him around about lap 14.
As we can see there, going down into turn one, John Derrick saving a bit of fuel going down to turn one and he's doing it just here as well. It's a tactic which has only recently been discovered in the last couple of months by a lot of eSports drivers and professional sim racers of coming into braking zone. It's a lot easier if you've got hand clutches, holding in the clutch, lifting off and coasting as you come down into the braking zones, and then releasing the clutch before coming down through the gears. Obviously, as the engine runs at lower RPM, it saves a lot more fuel, as we see Billy Fletcher getting it wrong going through the penultimate corner there, meaning that John Derrick can close right up to that Lamborghini. Only 4/10 now at the line. A little weave there from Billy Fletcher. Wonder if that means that John Derrick, now he's fuel saving, will be able to run a lap longer than the other cars around him, so therefore making a shorter pit stop. It'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out. Just still update.
Sorry. In saying that, actually, because we haven't been running on board with John Derrick for a little while, it might be safe to assume that he's been fuel saving from near enough the very start, and that is why that we see John Derrick has actually gone in front of him, is because we see that John Derrick is just trying to maintain just a little bit more fuel in his tanks than Billy Fletcher, so that he can get the drop on him when it comes to pit stops.
Yeah, speaking of getting the drop in the pit stops, we saw Theo coming in a lap later than Marcus and Lowry, and that's paid off. Theo Schroeder managed to stop for 3 seconds less than Marcus whilst in the pit lane. Now, if you look at the gap now, it's 3.4 seconds. So obviously Schroeder making a gain there somehow, meaning that he didn't have to fill up as much fuel in the tank, and he was able to spend less time in the pit lane, and has managed to make a massive gain there on Marcus. So Marcus will be pushing like all hellfire to try and catch up to Theo Schroeder, the leader of our race in LMP2.
Definitely. That's us now just over halfway mark, 36 minutes into the race now. Theo Schroeder coming up toe there, and Marcus Soholm getting cut behind Nick Carroll again for the second time today, as Marcus is trying to make his way back up behind Theo Schroeder to see if he can take the race lead. some very good driving here as we're seeing Billy Fletcher just holding off John Derrick again. You know, John Derrick's keeping a very respectful distance from Billy. It's almost like John just knows when he needs to attack Billy, and I think John will be a little bit more content with this race this week than he was last week with his main contender unfortunately binning it round to Puon into one of the barriers.
As we see our leader in AM category, Nick Carroll, making his way into the pit lane. Now, this is going to be interesting. I was saying just before the pit stops, it was a gap of 50 seconds between himself and Nick Olshan for P1 in the GT AM category, and it's a 50-second pit stop. So by my reckoning, that means that after this pit stop, if we look in the back of shot there, we should see the BMW of Nick Olshan coming around the final corner as Nick Carroll gets moving, meaning that it will be they'll be battling on the pit exit, if I'm not mistaken. We see on track map now Nick Olshan making his way through the final corner now. And are we going to see Nick Carroll moving anytime soon, as we can see him in the pit lane just ahead up in shot? Let's see what happens as they comes down towards turn number 1. Has Nick Carroll got moving? No, he's not. So that there has handed the lead over to Nick Olshan in the GTE AM in the GT3 AM category. Well done for him for making the early stop and spending a lot less time stationary in the pits than Nick Carroll. He's actually spent half the time that Nick Carroll spent in the pit lane. So has he got the fuel to finish to the end of the race now? Maybe he's short fueled and is able to get back up in front.
That could be the strategy that he's gone for. And in talking about that actually as well, Nick Carroll, it would also be safe to assume that he was just doing some minor repairs on the car that he may have picked up from maybe that lap 1 incident, potentially just some minor aero damage, but it's definitely not affected his racing style, as he is now out just behind Jonathan Beckman, who's going to Jonas Beckman, who's going to be bringing him a little bit of tow, hopefully, he's hoping, to try and catch up with Silas Nicholson.
Yep, the gap for the moment from Nick Carroll up to Sila Nick Olshan is 6.5 seconds. So 8.5 seconds. That's not to be corrected. He'll do well to make that gap up, but he's got the pro driver at the moment of Jonas Beckman in his iron sight at the moment. So they'll be expecting to see a battle there. That's for 4th overall. Those two being pro and am drivers, meaning that no matter where Nick Carroll finishes, either in front or behind Beckman, he won't score any more points in the AM Championship, but could score more points in the Pro.
Nick Carroll is doing a very, very good job of managing that slipstream as well. From Jonathan Beckman, I do hope, is it Jonas Beckman? Jonas Beckman in front of him, who is holding position there. But both drivers using the asphalt at the end of the 90 to get up onto the Yetis.
The S has been the place where we saw that big incident at the start of the race. And now going back to the lead of our race, we saw Theo Schroeder making a shorter pit stop than Marcus by 3 seconds, and it looks like, even though he was able to go a bit longer, he hasn't been able to hold off Marcus. Last time by Marcus 3/10 faster than him. That could have been some traffic at play. Just been informed that last lap was the fastest lap of the race by Marcus. So it'll be interesting to see what's about to happen here. Marcus has been closing up at a rate of knots, and it looks like they're lining up for a good battle for the lead of the race.
So I do believe it. Sorry if I did say it was Jonathan Beckman. It is Jonas Beckman. It's just my Scottish accent. It brings me to my knees sometimes. So looking on board still with Marcus Soholm, he is trying to chase down Teo, who is in front of him now. He is not enough to get past him yet on slipstream, so it's just little mistakes now that Teo Schroeder will make that Marcus will be able to capitalise on. You see the Cosworth wheel lighting up there as he's revving the car up a little bit, bringing it down the gears, dropping it into third for the last corner.
So we see Jonas Beckman peeling off into the pit lane a bit further back of shot as it looks like Schroeder just got held up slightly going through turn 1 there behind Nick Carroll, his Aquiver Motorsport teammate. Is Marcus going to be close enough to make a move on Theo Schroeder going down to turn 1? Theo's blinking a little bit of a dodgy connection there. As Theo goes defensive this time, moving left and right down the straight, trying to break the slipstream. Marcus is closing up, trying to get under the rear wing and pull alongside. He's a bit too far back. Yeah, he's not making a move at the moment. So he's decided to hold off this time by. Maybe we'll see him making a move later on in the lap, or perhaps next time by going down towards turn 5. Marcus and Schroeder now battling heavily for the win.
Definitely, as you can see on the rear wing of Theo Schroeder, Marcus Solholm is just there. He is waiting to get by. I think Theo he knew that he was going to be caught by Marcus, but when he was thinking hopefully it wasn't going to be at this point, maybe on the last lap it would have been acceptable, but he is managing to hold off Marcus. Marcus is trying to find a way around as we see Silas Nicholson there in the M4. Marcus getting a little bit held up there by Silas is coming round into his third last corner, into the second last corner now, and into that concrete pad at the end. We're seeing Marcus Solholm is now no longer in the slipstream of Theo Schroeder, so Silas coming to the aid there of Theo, as Theo is actually now coming up the S's.
Just shows how much traffic can affect your lap time as we now go back on board as the leaders of our race in the GT3 category. Billy Fletcher leads by 6/10 to John Derrick and the McLaren just behind. We saw Billy Fletcher take the lead on lap number 6, and since then he's been leading ever since. The gap hasn't extended since that pass by more than a second, so John Derrick maybe just utilising this time to fuel save. We remember him dipping the clutch earlier on in the race, so maybe he's tactically sitting behind and just trying to save as much fuel as possible as Barry Capella makes his way by. So
neither of the drivers in the lead of the GT3 class have actually pitted yet, so they'll be looking to pit within the next lap or so, I'm assuming. Obviously John Derrick on the fuel saving run, so he might be able to get the drop here on Billy Fletcher.
Welcome aboard to a driver that we haven't really seen since the start of the race. Jamie Daniels, he's had a bit of a lonely one since he got involved in the incident at the start, so he's managed to make his way up into 3rd in the AM category and 8th overall. He's currently sat a minute and 54 behind the leaders, so that's a lap down on the leaders in GT3, but there's a 20-second gap to Nick Carroll, so unless he's able to pull something out the bag here, he'll do well to make any more positions up. So as we're just looking now, the other AM driver that was in the race, Jonathan Keane, has retired, as we remember. So it looks like Jamie will be guaranteed a 3rd place no matter what happens here. As we see Billy Fletcher, the leader in GT3, making his way into the pits. So this is the first of our leaders making a pit stop. We saw John Derrick saving fuel earlier on, and no surprise here that he's gone a lap longer. Is he going to be able to short fuel, and is this strategy going to work out for him? Billy Fletcher only needing 15 minutes worth of fuel as he pulls away, only stationary for 11 seconds. It'll be interesting to see what happens for John Derrick in the McLaren as Billy pulls away. He's going to be giving it all hell's bells now on this outlap to try and get ahead of his competitor John Derrick, who is 29 seconds up the road at the moment, and he'll be coming in at the end of this lap to take his fuel.
Just a reminder for anybody in the chat that hasn't joined the championship and would like to join, I do believe there is a link to the Discord that's been put in the chat, so feel free to click on that and join it, and you can speak to Marcus Solholm, who is one of the racers today, but also is the league organizer, and he will get you on board. We have 3 categories obviously running. We have LMP2, GT3 Pro, and GT3 AM. The Pro and the AM depends on your I rating, but that will probably be discussed by Marcus if you would like to join. We are ISRC TV. If you would like to see more from us in the future, make sure to subscribe and like our current live stream. Feel free to go back and watch past live streams as well, as we see John Derek is diving into the pits now. So I'll let Isaac talk us through this one here, as it'll be interesting to see where Billy Fletcher is on the track.
As we hear John Derek shifting through the gears to try and get that little bit more speed that you can get in iRacing just by spamming through the gearboxes. He pulls to a stop in his pit lane, and we look at the back of shot now. We should just be able to see, if the pit wall wasn't in the way, Billy Fletcher in the Lamborghini making his way out of the final corner now, down across the start-finish line. Any moment now, John Derek's going to start moving away. Yes, he is. Who's out in front? Billy Fletcher makes his way down to turn one. They're going to be side by side in the exit of the corner. Who's going to be able to make it move stick? Billy Fletcher's going to have the overrun, and it looks like John Derek's going to be able to get out ahead. But is Billy Fletcher close enough to make a move down here into turn number 5? He'll have had the overspeed after getting the run out of turn 1, although he did run quite wide on the exit. Be interesting to see what happens here. Is he's going to try and sit in the slipstream of the McLaren, get as close as he can. He's closing up rapidly. Let's see what's going to happen here, as it doesn't look like he's close enough to make a move. No, he's not. So he's going to be giving it all hell for the final 12 minutes of this race to try and close up and make a move on John Derek for the win.
Obviously, John Derek winning the Spa race, sprint race last week. So John Derek is obviously very akin to being a winner, especially as it only comes to round 2 of the Aquiver eSports Championship. And we see Billy Fletcher is pushing John Derek there, trying to get John to make a mistake coming round the toe. Now we come up to the heel of the track. Again, it does seem that Billy Fletcher is just not close enough to make a move coming into any of these corners. As I was saying, we are ISRC. We do have multiple leagues that we commentate on. We have our own Porsche Cup series that is run on a Thursday night, which you can, I don't know if you can still sign up for. That could be, I would need to find out about that.
Still sign up for that.
Yep, you can still sign up for the Porsche Cup series. And there's also, on the 10th of April, if I am correct, we have the 24 Hours of Le Mans by ISRC. And that will be a full 24-hour race with LMP1, LMP2 and GTE class. The Pro and AM in the GT class. So if you'd like to join any of those, feel free to join the Discord. That is in our description below.
But for the moment, we're focused here on the lead of our GT3 field. John Derek's leading the race after 50 minutes. 10 minutes to go in the race at the moment, with Billy Fletcher just behind. We saw that John Derek was saving fuel earlier on in the race and able to go a lap longer, and therefore getting the jump on Billy in the pit stops, as we see our leaders making their way through. Theo Schroeder in Aquiver Motorsports with Marcus Solholm just behind him in the back of the shot, making their way through. So this is first and second side by side in GT3, and that's second and second. So it's the 2 leaders in GT3 and LMP2, and then the 2 second place cars in GT3 and LMP2. Got that out of there. There's a bit of a tongue twister, that one, making their way through.
As we see, John Derek is just still under pressure by Billy Fletcher coming into the final 9 minutes of racing here at the Glen. You see John Derek is still managing to maintain a good pace in that McLaren as he's coming into the last corner there. Billy Fletcher not managing to make too much time on his fellow compatriots. Both of them on 144s, but there is 0.3 near enough between Billy and John Derek there. Running on board with Jonas Beckman, who's one of the Aquiver Motorsports drivers. He unfortunately got caught up in a little bit of an incident earlier on, but he will be the last of the finishers, it seems, as he is just a little bit down on Jamie Daniels in the amateur class. Jonas Beckman is guaranteed a 3rd place in the Pro League to date. Theo Schroeder actually still ahead of Marcus Solholm now in the Delaras in the LMP2 class. Marcus still not managing to find enough time on Theo. Theo's just having the drive of life right now, coming up towards heel.
Just 2 laps ago, Theo Schroeder setting the fastest lap of the race so far with a 32.2 before he got caught up in the traffic, meaning that Marcus caught slightly last lap, but the gap's currently 1.3 seconds. And with only 8 minutes to go, which will translate into roughly 5 laps left to go in the race, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen and what's going to play out between these two as they get ready into the bottom of their fuel tanks.
So, looking at the back of the field, still, we do have a little bit of a change. Well, sorry, not a change, sorry, but Jonas Beckman and Jamie Daniels there. Still a couple, about a lap behind their fellow GT class racers. But again, both those drivers being guaranteed a position in today's race.
Yeah, so all of the GT drivers will be guaranteed a podium, as we've got 3 pro drivers and 3 AM drivers left on the field. And with 3 LMP drivers, everyone's a winner at the moment. Everyone's going to get a podium, no matter where they finish. As it is right now, as long as they cross the line at the end of the race, they'll be given top 3 points, 25, 18 and 15 points respectively, which will go towards their championship. Jamie Daniels having a lonely race, like we said earlier on, after he got caught up in the incident at the start. But he's still going on, still going around in his Omega Racing car to try and score as many points as he can to help him towards that GT3 AM championship.
Definitely, and we see Jamie Daniels here doing a good enough he obviously doesn't have to push the car to the maximum limits, but he still is anyway. It's nice to do a little bit of hot lapping around Watkins Glen, even if it is in the middle of your race. And yeah, he's just enjoying driving around. Nick Carroll here, sitting 2nd place right now in the AM class, in that M4. Silas Nicholson just ahead of him after that fantastic pit stop maneuver earlier on, which put him in the lead.
Marcus
Theo Schroeder. Oh, sorry. Theo Schroeder is ahead of Marcus Solholm. Marcus Solholm still not managing to close up that gap, as I'm assuming Isaac was about to say. So I need to apologise, Isaac. I'll let you speak now.
As I was saying, Theo Schroeder still able to keep that gap at roughly 1.2 seconds from Marcus. Marcus not able to pull the laps together at the moment to close up close enough to Theo to get in that all-important slipstream going down the back straight. Although it looks like Theo's about to catch this GT3 car of Nikolshin, if I'm not mistaken, up ahead as he gets squeezed at the apex. That means that Marcus is able to close right up just half a second now between those two. Commentators curse there, as I was just saying. He's going to make a move up the inside to try and put Marcus off, generate a little bit more of that gap that he's lost. But unfortunately, he's been held up so much there by that GT3 that Marcus is going to be able to close up in the slipstream, as it's only 0.4 of a second, separating these two at the line with 5 minutes to go in the race.
In all fairness, though, Marcus has just had bad luck with the GT3s today. Every time that he's just gotten close enough to Theo, Marcus has been caught up in a GT3. And Theo would pull away. So Theo's just been getting saved by these GT3 class cars today, coming up, and you can actually see Theo's already trying to break the toe there from Marcus, and he's moving into a defensive stance on the track, making sure that Marcus doesn't get past him. Marcus using a lot of the concrete padding on the edge of the track there to help him, so the curbing. Coming up now to the toe. Very nicely done there from both cars. You can see they're pretty much on each other's tails coming around here. Now into the heel. Not too much curb there from Marcus, but he managed to keep it going. Lost it a little bit there. That's cost him a bit of time as he managed to get a little bit of oversteer, kicking the back end of that Delara up around that corner. And the last corner there, using all of the concrete to get round. And we have approximately 2 laps left of racing here. Now as we're on board with Laurie Coprella, who is going to be getting 3rd place in this race. He's just taking the car home. He's not necessarily pushing it.
Similar story to Jamie Daniels, who said he's just, as Andrew just said, just trying to bring the car home. He's had a bit of a lonely race after starting in P3. Unfortunately, not able to quite keep up with Marcus and with Solholm and Schroeder. As we saw, he did have a couple of offs earlier on in the race, Lowry, and not able to recover from those, unfortunately. But it's good to see him carrying on, and he's going to take home that 3rd place if he can cross the line in just under 2 minutes' time. So we now look at Jamie Daniels, the driver I was just talking about, in that brightly coloured Omega Racing car. Gap to the next car up the road is 56 seconds. As we now look at the leaders in GT3, we saw John Derrick earlier on taking an interesting fuel strategy. Fuel saving a lot, able to go a lap longer than Billy Fletcher. He was able to go a lap longer and fuel for marginally less, but yeah, he was able to spend a second less time stationary in the pits, and we saw when he came out, he'd gained that second, and since then has been able to push a lot harder than Billy, able to rely on the tyres that he was saving whilst fuel saving behind Billy, and now we're seeing that push through now as he's pulled the gap up to 2.7 seconds as he will come across the line to start his final lap of the race at the end of this lap.
As we see John Derrick in that fire-spitting McLaren, he's unfortunately, well, sorry, not unfortunately, but he has managed to pull away from Billy Fletcher now coming round. What seems to be, this is going to be a second last lap for him. It looks like he might actually have to get another lap in now, but Marcus Solholm and Taylor Schroeder just fighting it off. Taylor's doing very well to fight off the challenges that Marcus is throwing at him. Unless Taylor makes a mistake within this last lap, it could be that we see that Taylor is going to take his first win in this championship.
Just 3 corners to go now for the German driver. 2 now as he makes his way out of turn number 10 down towards the Stewart left-hander, which is just a slight lift in these LMP2 cars, and coming through to the final corner now to come across the start-finish line to take a win here at Watkins Glen. Marcus Solholm just 8 tenths behind him after a very intense battle between those two, changing positions the entire time. Well done to Theo Schroeder for being able to bring it home in first and Marcus Solholm in second, meaning that Larry Coppella will bring the car home in third in LMP3. As we look forward down to our GT3 AM winner, or leader at the moment, sorry, I should say, C.S. Nikolsson, as he makes his way out of the third from last corner, coming through the Stewart corner like we just saw. It's a bit more of a break for these GT cars, but he's able to come across the line and win the GT3 AM category, sorry. Well driven by him, with Nick Carroll just behind in second place. And here we are, John Derrick, winner of the GT3 Pro category. We saw him fuel saving, an amazing strategy for him to be able to come out ahead of Billy Fletcher from pole position, dropped back to second after lap 6, and then able to save fuel and make a pass at the all-important times in the final 10 minutes of the race to then bring the car home and win GT3 Pro. And with Billy Fletcher coming home in second. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic driving there from John Derrick. He was definitely using that fuel saving strategy to his best abilities there. As we see now, Jamie Daniels will be coming home as the last driver to finish today's race. In the amateur category, as we can see now that John Derrick, we will hopefully be able to get in the chat for today. And we can hopefully chat to him about how he managed to get that win. Yeah, I think he'll be a lot happier than that win than he was last week, don't you think, Isaac?
Yeah, we heard him saying last week about how he felt like he didn't deserve the win after after the pole sitter last week, Yelta Korsman, had a slight off at P1, meaning that John Derrick then got gifted the win. He said he would like to have won it in a similar fashion to date. And in fact, I'll see if we can bring him into this category now. Here we are. So winning both race 1 and race 2 here in the Aquiver eSports Championship. John Derrick, congratulations on your win. How did the race go for you?
Yeah, interesting start. The back straight obviously is very drafty, so it was difficult to break Billy. So I thought the best strat was just to sit behind and try and save as much fuel as possible, and then just push at the end.
Yeah, we noticed that in the commentary box. We saw Billy getting by on lap number 6, and then you were just sat behind saving fuel. Was it your intention to let Billy by and then save fuel, or did he just get by and then did you decide I'm just going to save fuel from now on for the rest of the race?
So the first few laps, I tried to break the draft, but the thing is, I think without the bus stop at the back on the back straight, it's just like you've just got to have such a good run basically to try and break the draft there. So it's so strong. So I thought, rather than try and push, and I don't know if he was running less wing than me or something, and he was going to jump me in the pits, rather than do that, try and just let him past really.
Yeah, but nonetheless, very well done to you. Congratulations on your win in the GT3 Pro category. Any questions from yourself, Andrew?
Yeah, I was going to say as well, after the comment you made last week about how you weren't genuinely happy with that win, you felt like you could have got more of a race. Did you feel that you could have that this week was more of a race than Spa?
Yeah, I think it was much better. I had to still push to stay in the draft and stuff with Billy. Like I say, it was good fun. So it was difficult to drop him at the start as well. So that sort of changed the race and made it really fun. Yeah, it was good.
Perfect. Very well done to you.
And finally, would you like to give any shout outs to anybody at all?
Shout out to you guys, as well as the livery that I was sporting today is from Tam Liveries, who did it in the space of 24 hours. So really, really nice livery. So shout out to Tam Liveries as well. And,
yeah, we noticed that. It looked very good.
Yeah. Well, cheers, guys.
Thank you very much, and have a good one.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one, man.
Bye.
Next, we're going to have Silas Nicholson, who is the class winner from the AM category.
Hello.
Hello, Silas. How are you getting on, buddy?
Fine, thank you.
Perfect. How did you think the race went from your point of view?
Well, I think I was a little bit lucky. I think Nick changed tires when he went into the pits. I don't know why, but then I managed to get in front of him and just hold it there. And I don't know what happened to Key, but he was gone at some point. And then I ended up winning.
Yeah, so Jonathan Keane, he took to one of the barriers coming out of the loop, just towards the toe, in between loop and toe. He hit the barriers there, and that's unfortunately what ended his race. But from your point of view, was it your strategy that you felt was it much better than last week?
I didn't really have a strategy. I just trained a lot more than I did last week, and then I was able to drive a lot more consistent. I think that helped.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Have you got any questions, Isaac?
Yeah, so obviously there was that big accident at the start of the race. A lot of the GT3 cars got involved in. You got a bit of a tap from that at your front end. How much did that affect your pace? We didn't really see much of a drop off. Did you have much optional repairs?
Yes, I did have repairs. I lost a bit of top speed, and then I just waited. I pitted early, and then got the repairs done with the fast repair we were given, and then the car I could drive the car fast again, and then yeah.
Well, very nicely
Excellent.
done, and congratulations. Would you like to
Thank
give
you.
any shout outs to anybody at all?
No.
Okay, no worries. Brilliant.
Fair
Thank you
enough.
very much. We hope to see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you later. See you lads.
Bye bye.
As we bring through into the commentary box the winner from the LMP2 category and overall, Theo Schroeder. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We saw you having a bit of a ding dong battle all race long there with Marcus. How easy is it to pass on that back straight?
For me, it was pretty easy because we didn't have the same setup, and I was much fast on straights, but I lost always in the corners. But yeah,
Oh, well, that's good to see you guys having such a good battle. Obviously, last week didn't go entirely to plan for you. You unfortunately finished in fourth place after having a few issues, and you've bounced back here to get a win, which is very well done from you. Have you put anything in extra in for this race, more practice, or is Watkins Glen just a track that suits you?
I don't know, we all had our problems with Watkins, but I put on a bit more of practice and I made my own setup apart from the others. And I think that was a slight advantage, especially on the straight. And I think it was the biggest difference.
Yeah, we could definitely see you passing Marcus a lot easier down that back straight. Any questions from yourself, Andrew?
Yeah, actually, did you feel at all the pressure of Marcus breathing down your neck at all, especially on the last kind of 20 minutes of the race?
Yeah, definitely. It was a very cool fight. It was a lot of fun, especially in the beginning when we were probably fighting. In the end, I saw he was pushing all the way, but I had sometimes more luck with traffic, sometimes less. And I think the traffic made a big difference, especially in the end.
Yes, definitely. We saw a few times you managed to get the better of a GT3 car and use the GT3 car as a nice blocking strategy from Marcus's attacks. So I think that was very well done from you and very good tactics.
Thank you.
Before we let you get away, would you like to do any shout outs today to anybody?
I just want to thank the team for the opportunity to be here and thank you for broadcasting the race. And that's it.
So thank you very much. We hope to see you again back soon for next round.
Yep, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was Theo Schroeder there, the winner from race number 2 here at Watkins Glen in the Aquiver eSports Championship. If you guys at home would like to get yourself involved, you can do so via joining the link that will be on screen at the end of the stream or via the link in the description.
So now, do you want to do the LMP2s?
Yeah, of course. So if we give you down the official race results from the race, we've got Theo Schroeder took the win, who we just spoke to him a minute ago, with Marcus Solholm just 8/10 behind him. We saw those two battling all race long. Larry Capella, the third and final LMP2, had a bit of a rougher race than the other drivers. However, was fortunately able to make his way back up and was then unfortunately meant that he finished in third, but still good points for him in the championship as we look down towards GT8.
So now we're into the GT3 Pro category, where we saw a very close battle for the lead there towards the end. It was all down to one pit stop, and we can see that John Derrick managed to get the better of Billy Fletcher there in the McLaren. The McLaren managing to get the better of the Lambo. I'm sorry about that. And then in third place, we see Jonas Beckman, who managed to finish the race there. And unfortunately, David Gilmore and Matthias Debruck and Hendrik Lichtenhagen unfortunately had to retire due to earlier incidents in the race.
Now
Looking at sorry.
Looking at GT3, and we only had 4 competitors show up today, with Selena Colshan taking the win after Nick Carroll took ties in the pit stop. meaning that he finished in second place, and Jamie Daniels, after getting involved in the incident at the start, finished in third place, a minute behind the leading pair in GT3 AM. Unfortunately, the one other driver, Jonathan Keane, we saw having an accident earlier in the race, meaning that he retired, but we should hope to see him back again in strong form for the next race.
And that concludes today's racing. If you would like to take part in any future championships, we have Mosport next week, which is going to be a very good one for round 3 of the Aquiver eSports Championship. We have been ISRC TV, and if you would like to join us for any of the championships that we run, the link to our Discord is down in the description below. Thank you very much for watching today's stream, and yes. It's goodbye from me. And hopefully Isaac will be able to say goodbye as well.
Goodbye. We hope to see you again back soon in the future.
See you next week, guys. Take care.